Hello, my name is Stefano Chang, and this is a team presentation for Team 12. Our team is made up of 5 members, as shown on the screen, and we worked on a project called REACH. Our project has 2 sponsors. The first is Dr. Kevin Gary, who is an associate professor and chair of the software engineering department here at ASU. Our second sponsor is Dr. Armando Pina, who is an associate professor in the psychology department of ASU. Now I'm going to talk about REACH from a product's point of view. REACH is a research developed by the psychology department here at ASU, and it was meant to help identify depression and anxiety symptoms amongst children ranging from 4th to 6th grade before they were actually diagnosed by a doctor. Now I'm going to talk about REACH from a technical point of view. REACH has an existing Android application. This Android application is in its very early stages and does not contain all of the features and techniques of REACH. It also contains some bugs reported to our team by the previous team and sponsors that worked on it. After several meetings with Dr. Pina and Dr. Kevin Gary, we learned about Dr. Pina's need and vision for the product. What he envisions is an iOS and Android version written in native code, and also a server-side component who was able to collect the data generated by these applications and display them in an easy to understand way. After our meetings with Dr. Gary, we learned that he was worried about how the application was built from a technical point of view. He was concerned about future students who were going to be working on the project, but did not limit us to specific technologies. He is more of a mentor in this project rather than a typical sponsor. My specific role in this team was the project manager. I led more than others in the communication with the sponsors, and I was present in every single meeting during the semester. Not all meetings during the semester were mandatory, but I made sure to be in all of them in order to understand the requirements for this project.
Hello everyone, my name is Soham Shirgaonkar and I'm a part of the REACH team. The two main documents that I worked on were the SRS and the SDS. I worked on section 1, 2, 3 and 4 of the SRS. In section 1, we have the general description of the purpose of why we are building this application, why we are extending the REACH application, and who this document is intended for. On section 2, I worked on 2.1, 2.4 and 2.5. In section 3, I worked on 3.1 and 3.3. In section 4, I was involved in a major part of section 4. The section 4 lists all the different features and the different functional requirements of the system. So the first feature is the safe feature. This is the most important feature, and we had a few discussions with our sponsor and our faculty advisor with respect to this feature, and finally we locked down a set of requirements. This feature will be implemented on iOS as well as Android and involves quite a few challenging processes such as embedding the app with a little bit of machine learning, a little bit of AI to extract video and audio features. The second part is the iOS version of the REACH application. So I created the functional requirements for these. And the third part is the server-side component of the application. So I wrote the requirements for these as well. So the next document we have is the SDS. And in this document, I worked along with my teammates to work on the design specification, and I worked on the dependencies, the general constraints, the architectural design, the system architecture of the iOS application. So I was mainly involved with all of these components for the iOS application. We worked on both of the documents, the SRS and the SDS, collectively. And my contribution was, for the most part, the requirements, the design of the iOS application. Thank you. Along with this, along with these two documents, I also worked on getting the Android app set up through Android Studio and going through the tutorials of the extended education seminar of the Reach app, and also some of the Reach protocols to stop and stick and save. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sylvia Barney, and I am one of the team members in the Reach Plus project for SCR 517 Software Factory. So I'm going to go over some of the tasks and contributions I made for the project for this semester. This is our Taiga backlog, and what some of my contributions were in regards to the backlog. We're basically creating some of the user stories for the safe activity on the Android side. So I made some of these items and added them to the backlog. This is the eye tracking API that I found for Android, and it's called OpenCV. And as you can see here, it basically detects the face of the user as well as their eyes. It only detects their eyes when they're making eye contact with the device. So what we're planning on doing is basically examining the source code and trying to incorporate it in our project. So in terms of tone analysis, I looked into this tool called IBM Watson Tone Analyzer Service. It basically analyzes text in terms of tone. So basically the speech would have to be converted to text before it can be analyzed. The downside to using the tone analyzer, though, is that it's only free for a limited time, and it requires a lot of bandwidth, and there's also a risk in not being able to accurately detect the tone of the voice. So because this analysis doesn't really provide a way to measure the anxiety in someone's voice, and because it's hard to convert voice to text while preserving some of the punctuation in the text. For the project charter, I worked a little bit on each section, so I worked on parts of section 1, 2, 3, and 4. So in section 1, I helped define some of the terms that are going to be used in the document. And I also wrote some success criteria, which is basically to be able to deliver the software to schools across the state. Here's our work schedule. It shows the different tasks that need to be done, who's responsible for each task, as well as the start and end dates. So we all kind of collectively worked on it. For this document, what I mainly worked on was coming up with the project responsibilities for each team member in each phase. I'm also responsible for researching what's needed for the psychology background, particularly for the tactical breather research, as well as fixing bugs in the Android app. So before we can start implementing new features, we have to fix the bugs in the Android app. And then I'm primarily going to be working on the safe feature for the Android platform. So this is the software design specification, or the SDS. While I wasn't one of the primary contributors for this document, I did contribute to some parts of the last sections of the document. So I worked a lot on section 6.5. So in section 6.5, I discussed briefly data persistence and what sort of tools we'll be using for that. So now I'm going to go over which parts of the SRS, or the software requirement specification, that I worked on. So for the software requirement specification, I worked mainly on sections 1.1 to 1.4, and I also worked on sections 3.2 and 3.4, as well as section 5. So in terms of the operating environment, software will operate on Android and iOS devices, And Android devices must have version 4.4, KitKat, or higher. So each of us had to research different parts of the app, and I was responsible mainly for looking into different libraries and APIs that we can use for eye tracking and tone analysis. Because these are things that the sponsor would like us to include in the Save feature. So I also worked on Section 5, which discusses various non-functional requirements. So in terms of software quality attributes, we strive to create an application that is easy to use and learn for students. We want to create an application that's adaptable and can adapt to ever-changing needs and requirements from the sponsor as well as user behavior. And that's it.
Hi, I'm Satyam. I primarily worked on building the prototype for the new enhancement of Reach app and documentation. In documentation, I worked on project charter, project plan, software design specifications. I'll be walking you over the prototype that we built. So Reach is the app which teaches skills known to prevent child anxiety. We already have 5 features built into the app and we were asked to build the sixth one called SAFE. SAFE stands for Speak Your Mind, Ask Nicely, Firm but Kind Voice, Eye Contact. As the name suggests, it builds skills among students to maintain eye contact and to speak in firm but kind voice. On the landing screen, once the student taps Save button, he would be taken to a screen where he is presented a situation. On the situation, on tapping next, he would be given a thought. On tapping next again, he would be given 4 options to choose one. On choosing the right answer, he would be presented an option to speak his answer to the blob. Here, blob is the character of the app. At this point, the app would test two aspects of the student, whether he's maintaining eye contact or not. So let's say that he has started maintaining eye contact with the blob, and then the record button would come up on the screen. He can tap on record and start recording his voice. Once done, he can tap on done button, where he'll be taken to the success screen. At this point, he can either choose to go the activity again or to take on the next activity. So that's all on the prototype side. Thank you.
So during this project, I work on preparing the document, including the project charter, project plan, design document, and software requirement document. Our sponsor also enrolled me in one of the courses. This is the course that he enrolled me, and I also go through all the unit of these courses to understand the requirement of the project. This information was very helpful while creating the design document. In design document, I work with the goal and guidelines, development method, architecture strategies, system architecture, and also detailed system design in which we mention all the information that we gather from all the courses. We decided what each and every component of that application is interacting with the other component and how it interacting with the user. The sponsor also asked us to do research about the new features that we are going to add in the application. So we did the research and find out different open source technologies that are available to fulfill those requirements. In our project, the Android application is already there. So I performed the reverse engineering on that application to understand how each and every feature and how each and every file is contributing to the entire application. Using all this knowledge, I have also created a working prototype for one of the additional feature called tactical breather. So whenever the user will click on the start button, the tactical breather will start. It will indicate to inhale for the after 4 seconds. It will tell hold, and then it will tell the user to exhale. And this process will continue until the user will stop the process. And this is a prototype for tactical breather.